Hi everybody, welcome into Sports Talk Chicago. My name's Jon Zaghloul. Great to have you here on channel 59.3 B-Pod TV and Roku. Big show for today. We're going to break down the Super Bowl, what happened to Cincinnati. Let's talk about when the Bears may be able to make it. That comes up in just a second. Before we get started, make sure you follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Jon Z Sports and on Facebook at Jon Zaghloul. If you want to watch more of this show, search up Sports Talk Chicago on YouTube or go to sportstalkchicago.com. If you want to watch more shows from the B-Pod TV network, search up BPOD TV on YouTube. I want to start today with this. When you make it to a championship, NBA Finals, Super Bowl, World Series, you think, as a coach, let me rely on the guys who got me here. I mean, it'd be stupid if the Bears win the Super Bowl and all of a sudden, oh, hey, Andy Dalton, you're going to start. No, obviously, it would be Justin Fields. He got you there in that situation. For some reason yesterday, the Bengals chose not to listen to that philosophy. 2 times during the game, they needed 1 yard to gain, 3rd and 1 in the first quarter. Inside the red zone in the fourth quarter. And both times, Joe Mixon was nowhere to be found. Talked about this on the program last week. Joe Mixon, 292 carries, 1,300 rushing yards, dual threat back. One of the top running backs in the game this year, statistically. Yet he wasn't on the field. Zach Taylor, Mr. Quarterback Guru, Mr. Great Offensive Mind, did not have Joe Mixon on the field. Why not? Tweet from J.J. Zachariason. Let us never forget that the Bengals gave the ball to Samaje Perine with the Super Bowl on the line. And in the first quarter, 3rd and 1, Zach Taylor gave it to Perine again. Could not gain the 1 yard. They had to punt. And I get it, if the Bengals won, it was a one-possession game, we wouldn't even be talking about this, but the fact is they lost. The fact is, there were reasons why they lost. That's one of them right there. How do you not use your top running back in those situations? And at the end of the game, Perine didn't even dive for that football that Joe Burrow threw. Just let it drop out of the ground. Game over. Your whole season, your Super Bowl chances are on the line, and no effort at all being shown. Ridiculous. Saw a couple of people chide me. I pronounced his name wrong in the last video. My bad. But obviously, he's not a relevant player. He's been around in the NFL for such a long time. Played with the now defunct Redskins for a number of years, now the Commanders. He's never been anything significant. I couldn't even believe I saw his name on the roster come week 1 for the Bengals. I thought he'd been out of the NFL. And he was there. I just scratched my head. And I get it this year. 3rd down guy, decent enough pass catcher. You could justify putting him in here and there. Not in the Super Bowl. Not in the Super Bowl. When you need to gain yards. No. Stupid move. Joe Mixon got you to this point. You had a better run game than the Rams. The Rams last night averaged less than 2 yards per carry. They won. Can you imagine if Mixon was used in those 2 situations? Could have been a whole new ball game. But no. Perine got the call, and Perine did nothing. Don't understand it. Not a big-time player. Never really in this type of situation, Super Bowl for Perine, and he couldn't rise to the challenge, obviously. Ridiculous. Horrible. I had no clue why he was used. I had no idea why he was in those critical situations. And the Bengals wonder why they lost. Thought Joe Burrow played pretty well, and there's a real lesson there for Bears fans. Get the guy an offensive line. We hear it here all the time, but the same goes for Burrow. Had a good game and got killed in the sacks department. Ridiculous, too. I remember this when Burrow tore his ACL from no protection in the pocket. That next day, Zach Taylor, one of the Dan Patrick show, Dan asked him about why there's no offensive line, why nobody's protecting him. He got so defensive, he got mad, almost hung up on the interview. I remember watching it the day after. So defensive. Get the guy an offensive line. Please. You can't expect somebody to just go out there and kill it and avoid pressure. When on every play, you're being pressured because your O-line can't block anybody. I give Joe Burrow all the credit in the world. I mean, he was the MVP of this postseason, seriously. To get to the Super Bowl with that O-line, unbelievable. He's the MVP to me. He's the MVP of the whole postseason. Matthew Stafford got his ring. Cooper Kupp did great. I understand. But the fact that the Bengals were even there with that O-line, they had no business being in the Super Bowl with that offensive line. That's like Bears football, offensive line. They had no business being there. They made it there. That's all Joe Burrow. All of it's on him. He was the most impressive player I saw throughout the entire postseason. By far. And, everyone's going to forget about him now, right? He didn't win. Had he won, there would have been so much conversation around Joe Burrow. Now, no one's going to talk about him too much. People are going to forget about this, but I won't. And the guy was sacked 8 times in a game this postseason. They were in the Super Bowl. That's insane. He deserves all the credit in the world. I wish he was on a team that prioritized people around him. I get it. They got Jamar Chase. They got some good wide receivers. What about the frickin' offensive line? Not going to help anybody if you have deep threat wide receivers and your quarterback can't get 2 seconds to throw the ball. That's the Bengals' problem. They need offensive line help, and they need to hit on Zach Taylor and ask him and understand why Joe Mixon wasn't used. I don't get it. Going to be a lot of thinking to do on his part, Zach Taylor, come next year. I mean, if the Bengals are good enough again next year and they get back to this point, please, if there's one thing you take away from this Super Bowl loss, use the guys who got you there. Please. Use the guys who put you in that position. It's clear Joe Mixon did. All year he did. He ran the ball 292 times all season. Yet on a 3rd and 1 of the first quarter, don't use him. And late in the 4th, not even on the field. Yeah, that's a joke. Good for the Rams. I'm happy to see Matthew Stafford win. Now, Stafford went through way too many problems up in Detroit. First year leaves, now wins a Super Bowl. And him and Cooper Kupp were a great combination. Saw somebody tell me the other day, hey, who's throwing the ball to Cooper Kupp? Yeah, I understand. But did you see how many times Cooper Kupp caught the ball, then gained yards after the catch? That's why Cooper Kupp was an MVP candidate, and that's why in the end he won the Super Bowl MVP. That's the argument for Cooper Kupp. I get it. Matthew Stafford threw the ball. I get there has to be a connection, but Cooper Kupp is the heart of that offense. He is. Not Matthew Stafford. I didn't see Stafford win the MVP last night. No. He threw 2 picks, too. One of them not his fault, but still. Cooper Kupp won the MVP. Cooper Kupp was the potential NFL MVP. Kupp got all the consideration, deservedly so. That's why. You saw that drive last night to end the game? That's why. And the Rams were stacked. The Bengals, really, personnel-wise, do not compare to the Rams. Especially defensively. Rams, Von Miller, Aaron Donald, my goodness, they killed it. Only thing the Bengals had, run game. And guess what? Didn't use it. You know what your advantage is, and you choose not to use it. Shame on you. Not shame on the Rams. Shame on the Bengals. You knew your one advantage. You never used it right. Or I'm sorry, you did until you needed to use it right. Then you screwed up and choked it. And that's why you lost. The Rams couldn't run the ball. 2 yards per carry max. Cam Akers, 1.6 yards per carry. But that's the choice Zach Taylor made. Bengals lost. Good for the Rams. I'm happy for Stafford. Very, very happy for Stafford. This makes him a legitimate Hall of Fame quarterback. Say what you want about that, but it's true. He has the numbers. He needed the championship. Everybody knew it. He's going to get in. That's a fact. His numbers are pretty much similar already to Phillip Rivers. And he has a championship now. Left Detroit first year, win a championship. That's a pretty nice story, isn't it? Leave a team. Modern mediocrity. Come to a brand new team. First year. New head coach. New system. Win the whole thing. Great story. And it goes to show how Matthew Stafford is not a bad quarterback. Never has been. Never will be. Always a decent top 10, top 12 quarterback. And that's fine. It got the job done. Going to be a Hall of Famer. Good for him. I'd love to know how Detroit fans are feeling. Probably the closest they'll ever get to a Super Bowl. But hey, he left and he won. And the Rams won. Nothing bad you could say. I will say this, though. Look at the Rams and who they are. The Bears, obviously, if they want to get to a Super Bowl or win, they have a bit of a ways to go. Getting to the Super Bowl is not impossible. And I think we saw that with the Bengals. So, Bears fans watching the game, there's a path, even though there doesn't seem to be one. I'm serious. I mean, look at this Bengals team. Bengals had nothing. No offensive line, good run game, great quarterback. Made it this far. And could have won the game if they relied on their number one running back, not their backup. Not their third down guy, not some journeyman. Proves the Bears could do the same thing. There's a lot of parity in the NFL, but more than anything, the Bears don't need an over-the-top roster to make it. They may need that to win, but not to make it. Bengals proved it. Joe Burrow set the record for most times being sacked in a postseason, and yet they were leading part of that game. They were winning. Almost did win, too. So it's a good reminder to the Bears fans watching, watch that Super Bowl. It is really possible. But see, there are a lot of confounding factors, too. You have to have a good quarterback. I said it before. I'll say it again. Justin Fields has to be Joe Burrow. Not stylistically, but mindset-wise. Joe Burrow put a whole city, whole franchise on his back 1 year. Went to the Super Bowl. That's all it took. Justin Fields needs to have that same mindset and that same capacity. Much harder, bigger market, but it's possible. If Justin Fields could carry this team, the Bears will go wherever they want to go. I mean, even Joe Burrow overcame a bad offensive line to get to that point. So it's not impossible by any stretch. But Justin Fields has to learn how to put a team on his back. He hasn't shown that yet. Good. Hasn't shown it yet. And the Bears have to provide something for him. You know? Something. I mean, Bengals had a decent defense, but good run game. Bears have a pretty good run game, to their credit. David Montgomery, Khalil Herbert, maybe Tariq Cohen. The Bears have what it takes. Better defense, too. So this is not outside of the realm of possibility. But a lot of changes need to be made. Culture changes, mindset changes, and please, an offensive line. Please. And maybe another pass catcher or two as well. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins. Well, there you go. 3 great wide receivers you could throw to at any time. The Bears have none, or one right now, Darnell Mooney. You need more. The Bears fans, you saw the blueprint yesterday. Doesn't have to be perfect, which is comforting. It's obvious at this point, you don't need a perfect roster to get to the Super Bowl. I need one to win, but not to get there. Bengals didn't. Bengals had a horrible offensive line. They still made it. Bears could. It all comes down to the quarterback. Is Justin Fields able to put a whole city and a whole team on his back? We don't know yet. That's going to be the sole determining factor. The Bears could do whatever they want around Justin Fields, right? They could get a new O-line, more defensive help, new wide receivers, better running backs, or keep David Montgomery, that's fine. At the end of the day, though, it's going to come down to Justin Fields. I really believe Justin Fields is the sole determining factor in getting the Bears back to the Super Bowl. Justin Fields is the sole determining factor. Just like Joe Burrow. This Bengals team was nothing last year, especially after he got hurt. How do they turn it around this year? Joe Burrow. Yeah, it's going to make a big difference when your starting quarterback has 37 touchdowns, 4,500 yards, and overcomes a horrible offensive line. It's going to make a big difference. Can Justin Fields do the same? That is the question. Has nothing to do with, they're one wide receiver away, right? One linebacker away. No. That has nothing to do with it. The Bears are not one receiver away from a Super Bowl or one lineman away from a Super Bowl. No, they need Justin Fields to be Joe Burrow. They need Justin Fields to be capable of putting a city and a franchise on his back, turning the culture around in 1 year, putting up 4,000 passing yards, 30 passing touchdowns. That's what they need. Burrow proved it. Burrow didn't even need an offensive line. And he should have one. Didn't have one. Still made it. That's what I take away from that game. That's the biggest takeaway. The Bears need Justin Fields to develop. That's the only chance they have, at least coming up here, to make a Super Bowl. Not impossible, but a tall task that needs to happen. The Bengals proved it. Good run game, too, yes, but great quarterback. The Rams had a stacked roster, 100%. Stacked roster. But the Bengals did make it. And they got hot at the right time. They went 10-7. It's not always the best team on paper who gets in. It's a tournament. I mean, really, it's a tournament once you get to the playoffs. In the NFL, anything can happen. 9 times out of 10, the Bills would probably be in that Super Bowl this year. They were probably the best team in the AFC on paper, yet they didn't win. Bengals did. So it's a lot of luck. There's a lot that goes into it besides just the best roster, best team on paper. And I hope we all realize that after we watch the game. Wasn't all about who had the better roster. For the winner, maybe, yes, but still. It's not about the roster. It's not about being one wide receiver away, one lineman away, one linebacker away. It has nothing to do with that. Here's what matters. Can you get hot? And can your quarterback put a team on his back? Can Justin Fields be a franchise guy? Can he lead a city, not just a team, a city, to that spot? Joe Burrow did. He had no O-line, too. So he proved at least it's possible. I don't recommend that same strategy for the Bears. I think Justin Fields needs to be protected. He deserves it. The Bears owe it to him. Really, they owe it to him. Every quarterback is owed at least 3 seconds to throw the damn football. Burrow didn't have that. Still doesn't. Fields deserves it. If the Bears could get to that point, they keep their run game intact like Cleveland. They have a good enough defense for sure, better than Cleveland's. They could be right there. But it all depends on Justin Fields. He is by far the biggest determining factor for a Super Bowl. Without a doubt. Quarterback's always going to be that way. Look at the Rams. They got rid of Jared Goff, bringing Matthew Stafford. They win. Because Matthew Stafford's a competent quarterback. Say what you want. You can criticize him all you want. Oh, Stat Patford, whatever it might be. He's a competent NFL quarterback. He knows what he's doing. He's not an idiot. Jared Goff? Not so much. Matthew Stafford, though, 100%. Didn't want him on the Bears because I knew it wouldn't work. Stafford had to have the right team around him. Why leave Detroit, come to Chicago, and the situation's pretty similar. So it's not going to work on every team, but no matter what, Stafford's competent. He was competent for a long time in Detroit. Not his fault they didn't go anywhere. If he came here to the Bears, would have been this same situation. Maybe would have made the playoffs and lost right away. They had nothing. Look at how bad Justin Fields was. Even Dalton, Foles, whenever they played. This would not have worked for the Bears, but he went to the right team. Great coach. Good weapons, wide receiving weapons. Maybe not a run game, but wide receivers. It worked. It worked great. Good defense, too. Stacked defense. A lot of big names on that defensive front. So it worked. I think there's one more thing to mention, too. Despite all that I've said today, there is not one specific blueprint that gets you to the Super Bowl. There have been many teams who've done it many different ways. I mean, the Bears in 2006 had Rex Grossman. Okay, anything's possible. It depends on when you get hot, at what time, who you beat, strength of schedule, and who you face off against in the playoffs. So it really is a crapshoot, even though Vegas won't tell you that, but it's a crapshoot, really, from the beginning of the year to Super Bowl Sunday. 100%. So all these blueprints, all these ideas I'm throwing out there, they may not work. Different for every team. But based on what I saw last night, this is how the Bears have to make it. This is how they could make it. It all starts with the quarterback, no matter what. Always. Joe Burrow showed unbelievable growth in his second year, to the point where I'm even shocked. I thought he would have been a bust, Burrow. Proved me wrong, proved a lot of people wrong. The Bears need that from Justin Fields. They need that progression. They need Fields to be able to put a team on his back and win. Till that happens, it's not going to happen for the Bears. The Super Bowl. Even a deep playoff run, they need a quarterback to be able to be a franchise guy, put a team on his back. Justin Fields could, not proven yet, but could. You have to give him time to find out. All I'm saying is Burrow didn't need an offensive line. Just needed a run game and a decent defense. Good wide receivers. The Bears just need some wide receivers. They need to give Justin Fields weapons. And I still think an offensive line is necessary for him. Look, I'm not going to be messy and sit here and tell you, oh, no offensive line is necessary. Yes, it is. Bears owe it to Fields. They do. They need to protect him. It's not like Burrow. More fragile, injury prone, needs an offensive line to protect him, needs time to throw the football. So maybe the Bears aren't close, have a little bit of a ways to go, but Justin Fields could make a difference. Will make all the difference on this timeline for them. It's possible. That said, Rams deservedly won. And it has nothing to do with talent. Has nothing to do with them having a better roster. Has everything to do with Zach Taylor's decision to not use his real starting running back. That's going to cost you. I mean, that reminded me of Matt Nagy football. That's something Matt Nagy would do. Get to the Super Bowl and sit David Montgomery, right? Like, I mean, that's something Matt Nagy would do. And that was done in the game. 3rd and 1. First quarter, I'm going to sit my starting running back. 4th down, 4th quarter, inside the red zone. I'm not going to use him either. Why? You used him all year. You leaned on him all year. Why not use him? And that's what you get. You had the talent on your team, or good enough talent to win. You chose not to. You chose to sit him for whatever reason. And that one's going to bite you. That's why Cincinnati lost more than anything. Joe Burrow played fine. Played good enough to win. Got sacked a ton. Still kept his composure. But when you take out a running back with 292 carries and got you to that point, and then don't use him in big situations, yeah, that's going to cost you. Thanks for watching today's show. Here on BPOD TV, channel 59.3 in Roku. Really appreciate the time. Remember, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Jon Z Sports and on Facebook at Jon Zaghloul. you want to watch more of this show, search up Sports Talk Chicago, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and sportstalkchicago.com. And make sure you tune in here every night at 10:30, right here on BPOD TV. So long, everyone.